If you'd told me 8 months ago that I'd be standing on my front lawn getting screamed at by an HOA president over my son's inheritance, I would have laughed you out of the room. But that's exactly how my Sunday morning started. Right in front of the cabin I'd spent my whole retirement fund restoring. My dream home, every last nail and rosebush, every penny in my savings. Right there for everyone to see. And now this woman's waving documents in my face, absolutely convinced I've been squatting on her family's land, declaring that everything I've built is just one big lie. My hands, steady after decades working insurance claims, were shaking. It hit me. This woman might actually destroy my entire future before I'd even unpacked my boxes. I'd just finished trimming my heritage roses, the ones I'd babied back to life for 3 months, when I heard her heels pounding across my garden like a judge about to announce a sentence. She wasn't here to talk. She was here to conquer. "Get off my property," she shrieked, waving that manila folder so close I could practically taste her perfume in outrage. I barely managed to say "excuse me" before she was laying out her case like a prosecutor. "This house belongs to my family," she insisted, "and you have no right to be here." And I'm standing there in my work jeans, dirt on my knees, trying to stay calm, replaying every step I took to buy this place. The title company, the closing attorney, every signature. I'd done everything by the book. But doubt has a way of getting under your skin, doesn't it? You know what I mean? Even the facts start feeling thin. She kept pulling papers out of that folder like she was loading ammo for battle. "That sale was illegal," she barked. "Eleanor Hartwell never had the right to sell my grandfather's house." Eleanor, the sweetest old lady, had lived here for decades before moving to assisted living, the sale handled by a rock-solid attorney. Yet here I was, being told the whole thing was a sham. She flashed an ancient deed, a family tree that looked like it was whipped up during a grade school art project, and a stack of black and white photos, a man in overalls, maybe my house in the background, maybe not. "That's my grandfather," she said, voice breaking. "He built this house, and you have 30 days to get out or I'll see you in court." At that point, my neighbor Mrs. Patterson peeked over the fence, concern all over her face, and the HOA president just soaked up the attention. She went full local historian, talking about questionable ownership situations up and down our block, hinting that maybe other folks should be worried too. I started feeling like maybe I'd walked into a hornet's nest instead of a retirement community. Still, I asked for her contact info and offered to have my attorney review everything. She just laughed, a cold, delighted sound, and promised I'd be hearing from her lawyers soon. Now, old habits die hard, and my years in insurance claims taught me, document everything. I asked if I could photograph her evidence, and she agreed, but there was this flicker of doubt on her face. After she stormed off in her too fancy car, I sat at my kitchen table, scrolling through the photos, jotting down every detail, her perfume, her car, the time, the weather. When I zoomed in on that supposed 1920 deed, I noticed something, a modern staple, shiny and new, holding the pages together. They didn't make staples like that back in 1920. That was the first thread in the sweater. But it didn't end there. The next morning, a violation notice was taped to my door, official letterhead, case numbers, the whole 9 yards. Accused of unauthorized garden modifications. Fined $500, with more penalties on the way. I called the HOA, and the secretary almost whispered, "Good luck, Mr. Sanchez." Like I was going up against a mob boss, not a garden club. When I met with Mrs. Moore, the president, she sat behind this ridiculous mahogany desk surrounded by certificates and violation notices like they were hunting trophies. She slapped down a $2,000 bill for my roses and mulch, citing rules written in a font that didn't exist when the original documents were made. Every answer she gave sounded more desperate, more like someone who expected to be obeyed, not questioned. After that meeting, my neighbors started quietly sharing their own stories, being fined for mailbox height, flag colors, even the shade of paint on their doors. Most folks just paid up, too tired or scared to fight. But I wasn't about to fold. I dug into public records, and with every search, the truth started to come out. I found an article about Mary Evelyn Moore, convicted in Arizona for HOA fraud, running the same inheritance scams, even skipping out on probation. The photo was her, no doubt. The kicker? A call from a woman in Phoenix whose dad had been targeted the same way, confirming it was the same woman. This wasn't about heritage or property. This was a predator who'd made a career out of terrorizing folks who just wanted peace and quiet. With the FBI now involved, things got real. Agent Wilson explained that I wasn't just up against a cranky neighbor. I was part of a federal case against a woman who'd scammed families from Arizona to Colorado, using fake documents, shell companies, and intimidation. I learned to record everything, preserve originals, timestamp my photos. We took the evidence to the county clerk, a little woman named Martha, sharp as a tack, who tore apart Evelyn's so-called historic deed in under 10 minutes, pointing out fake seals and a font that hadn't existed back then. Even Tony, the security guard and resident history buff, chimed in about the typewriter marks and staple types. Turns out, truth doesn't need to yell. It just needs a magnifying glass and a few good people who care. But the real twist came at the emergency HOA meeting I called. Yes, there's a bylaw for that. And yes, I followed every step. 37 neighbors showed up. Evelyn tried to run her usual play, waving her yellow deed and railing about family legacy. I just calmly asked her to explain the modern staples and fonts in her 1920 document, then showed the room the Phoenix News article, her mugshot and all. You could see the moment people realized they'd been played. Even her staunchest supporters started to back away. The vote to remove her as president was nearly unanimous. Of course, she didn't go quietly. Spray paint on my cabin, broken garden gnomes, angry voicemails. It got uglier before it got better. But her meltdown at the meeting went viral. And soon reporters, neighbors, and even strangers across the country were watching the downfall of the HOA Karen. Federal investigators, armed with evidence from 4 states, took it the rest of the way, uncovering millions in stolen money, shell companies, offshore accounts, and a web of lies going back years. Evelyn Moore was arrested, indicted, and eventually sentenced to 9 years in federal prison, with millions in restitution ordered to her victims. That winter, standing on my snowy lawn, I looked back at my cabin, restored, peaceful, a testament to stubbornness and doing things right. The community learned, too. We created new checks and balances, made the HOA transparent, and built a neighborhood watch for the elderly. Every so often, I give little talks about spotting forgeries, trusting your gut, and asking the right questions, just in case another predator comes knocking. And let me say this, sometimes justice really does feel like a group project. It isn't perfect, and it isn't always quick, but when enough ordinary people decide they've had enough, even the slickest con artist can't stand up to the truth for long. So tell me, have you ever faced down a bully hiding behind a fancy title or a stack of phony papers? Drop your story in the comments. Let's keep each other sharp. Because in the end, it's the little things, documentation, courage, community, that keep our homes safe and our stories worth telling.